Hey, mi nombre es Manuel Pérez. En esta ocasión no voy a estar dando mi opinión sobre algún tema de videojuegos, como hacemos en Hablando Gaming, o de mis reseñas de alguna serie de televisión, videojuego o película. Lo que voy a estar haciendo es compartiendo mi entrevista con la gente de Midnight Suns, en específico Jake Solomon, director creativo de Firaxis, y Bill Rossman, de vicepresidente de Marvel Games, en donde hablamos bastante de sin duda para mí, Midnight Suns, un juego que ya estoy esperando a que lance en marzo del 2022. Así que no se preocupen, no hay spoilers, pero hablamos principalmente más de la historia, no del gameplay. Y un poquito más de claridad, como que la entrevista se dio antes del reveal del gameplay. Así que cool. Cool, patreon.com/slash Gamer. Hay que pagarle los bills a través de patreon.com/slash Gamer. Y para el mes de septiembre tenemos a los VIP Limited Edition con Jonel Álvarez, José Rosado, Noel Santiago, Max Berrio Cruz y Icon. Sé parte de la comunidad awesome que estamos creando a través de patreon.com/slash Gamer. Así que vamos inmediatamente a la entrevista. Uh, One of the first things I wanted to ask is why Midnight Suns? Because Marvel has a big history of big teams like Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Inhumans. Why Midnight Suns?
Why not, Manuel?
Yeah.
No, but you know what? I'll say this. You brought up a great point. Marvel does have several very well-known groups, and now Midnight Suns are going to join them. We know them. We love them. They have a special place in our heart, and they're just waiting for the spotlight. You know, on the Marvel side, it's all about, can we connect the best creators to the characters they love and help them create their awesome storytelling experience?
Yeah, I think because you named these beloved teams, and to me and to members of my team, and again, I genuinely, Midnight Suns was my favorite comic book event, and so to me, I view the Midnight Suns as cool, right, as any of the other Marvel teams, and I think, yeah, like Bill said, I think that like it's just a matter of, to other people, they just need to meet them. Like I believe in them so much, and Marvel believes in them so much. It's a case of, Marvel has so many amazing stories and characters and teams, and I think that this is a case of, it's really exciting to work with the Midnight Suns, for example, and say, all right, this is a case of, we get to introduce this cool team to a bunch of people.
On an interview with Polygon, one of your member of your team said that there's gonna be a different change of style that is gonna be not permadeath, if I'm right. So
Yep.
how different is it gonna be this game to other game developed by Firaxis?
Very different. It's brand new. It was built brand new from the ground up to be a completely different game, because the fantasy of all of our games is very different. Even if you look at something like Civilization, the fantasy there is very different from something like XCOM compared to something like Midnight Suns. So in terms of the combat, I think, and there are a couple of big fantasies that you want to fulfill for the player. And I think when it comes to combat, the fantasy is that if you are a Marvel superhero, sure, you can be challenged, right? If you're fighting a big, Marvel villain, you want the superhero to feel challenged. But at the same time, superheroes, there's this great fantasy of when you step onto the battlefield as Blade, or you step onto the battlefield as Roddy Reyes, like, you should be the coolest person on the battlefield, right? Like, they should. And as a player, when you control them, you really want that sense of power, and to feel very cool. And so it's a completely different fantasy. And what that means is that the mechanics we've used in our other games, it just didn't work. We had to design all new mechanics, which makes sense. Midnight Suns is just a very, very different experience. And so, to the point where there are no mechanics shared between XCOM and Midnight Suns. It's brand new from the ground up. Yeah. And let me tell you, it's not what we wanted to do, because it made the job a lot harder, but it's the right thing. It feels different.
as I've heard Jake describe it before, in XCOM, you are afraid of the foes you're facing. And so there's a lot of, hiding behind things. In Midnight Suns, the foes are going to be scared of you.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how was the process to selecting the hero? Because you mentioned Blade, Robbie Reyes, the Ghost Rider, and we saw Iron Man that a lot of people were shocked about. Really, Iron Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel? How was the selection and the collaboration with Marvel from it?
I can say, it's all story driven, right? So in the as you're playing the game, a lot of the Marvel heroes that you may be more familiar with, so the Avengers type characters, Captain America, Iron Man, they realize and discover that there is a supernatural threat on the horizon. So they need to turn to the experts. And so that's why the Avengers and those characters reach out to the Midnight Suns. So it's all story driven. And then what's really awesome is you have these collisions of different types of characters. And every great Marvel story is about personalities and these collisions. And I think, Jake and the team at Firaxis just came up with an awesome combination of characters.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Bill, of course, is exactly right. Those personalities are strong, and those personalities don't always get along at first, and so it really is part of the narrative of the game, is the idea of combining these characters that players may be more familiar with, and then they meeting up with this team that players may be less familiar with, and how that sort of interaction plays out, and that's core to the narrative of the game.
That's right. It's these two groups coming together, and you, as the hunter, are in the center of them.
Yep.
You as the hunter, this all new customizable character, your decisions are driving the game.
Yep.
So how customizable is the hunter? Because we seen the hunter being a female character, but in other games, by putting out sample Assassin's Creed, you can change it.
Yeah, you can look male, you can look female, you can look very, very different. There's a very wide variety of looks for the hunter, because again, we want players to feel like they're putting themselves into the game, and so that's important for us, right? And so, we want players to be able to make the hunter look how they want them to look, and be able to represent themselves or however they want to represent in the game. So yeah, it's very customizable.
And how different is between last gen version and this current gen version of the Xbox and PlayStation?
Oh wow, yeah, I guess we're calling it current gen now, huh?
Yeah.
I still have to think of it as next gen. I mean, they're relative. They're very similar. And I think that it's more a case of, obviously, it's I wish I could talk about exact features, but I'm not. I'll have to talk to my systems team about exact features that are specific to the current gen versions. But there's parity between the versions.
And Bill, one question that I really wanted to ask, because I'm just a huge fan of Marvel Comics, and a lot of people will be reading the Midnight Suns. What comic series or volume people should be reading on Marvel now?
Well, let me tell you, the cool thing is, when we approached the game, the story, the whole experience, Jake and I talked about what Stan Lee always said. And Stan said, every comic can be someone's first comic. So that's how we approach the game. You don't have to read anything to be prepared. You can come in and maybe not know, maybe you're not a huge Marvel fan. Who knows? Maybe you don't know a lot. But the way the story is laid out, the way the characters are introduced, and that you put into the boots of the hunter, it's all going to be very accessible. And as you enter this darker side of the Marvel Universe, it will all be made very clear to you. There will be mysteries, but you will understand who the characters are, what the relationships are. On the flip side, we also created it. Firaxis was so smart in the characters they selected, the locations, the villains, the items, all the dialogue. It's filled, it's chock full of Marvel ingredients. I don't even call them Easter eggs. I call them building blocks. So if you're a longtime comic reader, you will see a ton of familiar things. And you can brag to all your friends. Like, let me tell you who that is. Let me tell you what that location is. So
they say, did they just say Wonder Man? We'll be like, yes, they just mentioned Wonder Man.
If you do want to get a heads up, you can go back and check out in the 90s, there was an event called Rise of the Midnight Suns. And Suns was spelled with an O. We've changed it to a U because we have many reasons. Our team is male and female, but also there's the whole idea of the Midnight Sun, and there's a whole mythology to it. So you can go back and read Rise of the Midnight Suns and read comics like the 90s run of Ghost Rider, and there's also a book called Spirits of Vengeance, which starred Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch. And then that's where you'll see Lilith, Mother of Demons, and she is the main big bad in our story. So you'll see a lot of the ingredients there. But what is really great about this game, it's not a retelling. It's not an adaptation. It's not a retelling of anything. We gave Firaxis freedom, and they embraced it. And when they expressed it, they wanted to work with these supernatural characters. We said, okay, here's all the ingredients. Here's all the characters, locations, items, stories. You mix it up. You pick what you want to use. So it's a whole original, all new story, standalone. If you're a longtime Marvel fan, you'll love it. If you're just a fan of Firaxis games, you'll become a Marvel fan.
Yep.
You mentioned Lily, and a lot of people were surprised about her introduction. Who's Lily? Lilith.
So Lilith is the mother of demons. She's sort of a immortal sorceress, if you will. Jake, how would you describe Lilith?
Yeah, she's this ultra powerful being, and so she has like these godlike powers. And the really frightening thing about Lilith, because Marvel has this amazing cast of super villains, of apocalyptic level villains, like Apocalypse, like all kinds of villains. And the thing that sets Lilith apart, there are a couple things that I personally love about Lilith. And so Lilith has the ability to corrupt. With just a touch, she can corrupt famous Marvel villains or famous Marvel heroes. She can turn them into what we call the Fallen. She can turn them into corrupted versions of themselves. And so the danger with somebody like Lilith is, well, who do you send after Lilith? If she can corrupt any hero, any villain with a touch, like who's supposed to fight her? And that's what makes the Hunter special. They're the one person who's faced off against her and won. Now, her comic history, the reason why I always loved Lilith, she's this very cool, she is this parental figure, right? She's the mother of demons. And she had this cast of demonic children called the Lilin in the comics. And they were this crazy motley crew. There's like Meat Market, who is this basically living zombie. She had a child called Creed who would pull off his body parts and throw them. She had this amazing motley crew, and they were pretty gruesome. But she really did love her children, and they loved their mother, and it was very cool. Like she was this very parental character, and so we really embraced that, and that's why the player character, the Hunter, is actually the child of Lilith as well. Lilith is, because she is this parental figure, and so Lilith, as all Marvel villains are, like. They're not just pure evil, right? Like you have to understand, but even they have reasons that you can understand logically, potentially, like why they do the things they do. Certainly the best villains, like you can look at them and say, okay, and Lilith is no different. I think that, and as our story unfolds, you'll see that Lilith is a true mother. She is a true parental figure, and that's what makes her really interesting. Is that she's
and Jake is exactly right. What makes Marvel villains so captivating is that the creators, we think of them as real people.
No.
And we develop them and make them just as rich and complex as the heroes. And so as Jake said, the villains don't think they're evil. They may actually enjoy doing bad things, but in their minds, they're the heroes of their story. The villains feel like they're the only ones who have the willpower or the ability to do what needs to be done. The villains, in this case, Lilith, she has an agenda. She has a backstory. She has a tragic history. And she's choosing to do this thing that she feels that only she can do. And as Jake said, you may not agree with what Lilith does, but you'll understand why. And that makes our villains and makes Lilith very three-dimensional and even relatable, and puts you, the hunter, the child of Lilith, in the crosshairs.
Yep.
On one hand, here's heroes trying to save the day, and who are they trying to stop? Your own mother. So that's some great Shakespearean drama.
Yeah.
Now I'm captivated. I was planning to play it, but I really want to play it now because right now that's one of the really things I really like about Marvel, especially the relationship of the characters, especially like character like Spider-Man and the Sinister Six. He has a history. They know them, and you can see them back and forth on the duels. So the Hunter and the Lilith is gonna be might be really good angle. But Marvel has a lot of history with their characters and their costumes. Were we gonna see different type of costume besides on the comics?
Oh yeah, I think if you've already seen the announce trailer at the end during the hero walk or the cool walk, you see the characters are walking in front of the forge towards you, and they're wearing all new original suits. We call them the Marvel Knight suits that Firaxis designed for the heroes. And when you look at them, you may be like, wow, I've never seen that version. Like, that's Captain America, but I've never seen that version. Oh, that's Captain America from Midnight Suns. Yeah. So you'll see those suits. And then as Jake said, Jake, you can talk about the Hunter. And Hunter's the first all-new, original, customizable Marvel hero. And you really get to choose what the Hunter looks like depending on the path you take.
Yep. Yeah, there's a number of different outfits, the suits that the Hunter can wear. And, certainly they have their original suit, and that was really important to work with Marvel on to get. I mean, it's kind of the working with Marvel, you get to go to school, in terms of like, oh, what is it like to make somebody actually look like a Marvel hero? In terms of, there's really important detail about like the color blocking and how does it represent the actual character and how does the symbol look and things like that. And so there's certainly the original suit for the Hunter. There's a lot of suits to unlock for the Hunter. There's the Midnight Sun suits to unlock for all the heroes. And then in addition to that, there's lots of ways to customize like the colors of all the different hero suits and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of things to unlock in that regard.
And Jake is right. We really, in creating the Hunter, first of all, it's an honor to create a new Marvel character. Not many people get to do that in their lifetime. So we approached it. It was very fun, but we took it very seriously. And we thought about, Marvel has, thousands of characters. Why do we need the Hunter? And what is the Hunter going to bring new to the Marvel Universe? So we thought about the Hunter from head to foot. And as Jake said, when you design a Marvel character, we wanted to design a character that could stand alongside some of our most famous characters and look like they fit in. So we thought of everything from, as Jake said, the color blocking. What are their colors? What is the symbol? The silhouette? And then how do you keep those core ideas when you customize them in different ways so that your Hunter may look different from someone else's Hunter, but still is recognizable as the Hunter. So there is a method to the madness, and we talk about a character from head to foot. How does everything, how they stand, how they act, their gameplay, it's all a reflection of who they are as a character.
Yeah. And one last thing, this video game's coming out soon. Why people should be playing it?
I say because it's going to, if you're not familiar with it, Marvel's Midnight Suns will introduce you to a darker side of the Marvel Universe. And you're going to be able to get to know and live among and fight alongside these amazing characters. It's just so cool to see characters like Blade and Ghost Rider and Magic and Nico all together on the stage and getting the big spotlight. And you know, Firaxis and 2K, they've poured their hearts and souls into it. The gameplay is amazing. You're gonna have a fun time playing it, fun time shaping the hunter, and experiencing this new corner of the Marvel Universe.